This is Larry Adams with Channel, FSR in Central Illinois. And today I'm joined with Matt Bennett, our grain marketing expert. And today we're going to go through the USDA report that was released on March 31st. Matthew, I just want to introduce you and see what kind of comments you'd have from yesterday's report, good or bad, or what you thought.
Yeah, so the report that we're going to be talking about today is going to be the March 31st USDA Planning Intentions and Quarterly Stocks Report. So what the USDA does is they survey producers as of March the 1st. They say, hey, what are you going to plant this year? How many acres are you going to plant? And so on and so forth. They also will ask them about the stocks situation on the farm. How much corn, how much beans are you storing? Of course, they ask elevator systems as well. And so what they came out with yesterday was 97 million acres of corn, which was above any estimate that we saw from any analyst. My estimate was 94 million acres, and 83 and a half is what soybeans came out at. And soybeans, I was around 85. So I felt like they were a little bit low on beans, a little bit high on corn. But with that being said, those numbers, again, were taken as of March 1st. And so, a lot's happened in the month of March. I mean, things have definitely transpired, which might, affect acreage somewhat moving forward. And so from a stocks situation, it was actually more of a friendly report for corn in that we found that we had less corn on hand than what the trade was expecting. Another good thing is that we actually had about 660 million bushels less corn on hand than what we did just 1 year ago, which, just shows you, I mean, obviously we didn't have a great crop last year off, and we still had pretty decent demand. And so beans, not quite 500 million bushels less than what we had a year ago. Of course, the bean crop wasn't near as good either. So, all in all, the report, I would say, wasn't, a horrible report by any means. It just wasn't exactly one that was going to move the market towards the upside. If it's going to move it anywhere, it's probably going to continue to put some pressure on, given the fact that, total acreage of corn and soybeans was projected to be around 178, 179, and we came in, a couple million acres more than that. So at this stage of the game, it all just kind of depends on where we go from here. But my personal opinion is that difference between 97 and 83 and a half is going to narrow whenever you get into your June planted acreage report, which is, basically them asking you, what did you actually plant?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So when you said about when they were going back out with in June, asking what you actually report, where do you see growers going today and why? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing you're pretty busy yesterday around the office there with some of your customers and just goods and bads, right? So what are they saying out there?
Yeah, I think a couple of conversations. Of course, you're always going to have a conversation of, am I going to switch some acreage around? I mean, we know that's something that's discussed every year. The thing in our part of the world, and I think a pretty decent chunk of the Corn Belts, we actually got more done in the fall than what we got done in the fall of 18. So anywhere that you apply to anhydrous, you really don't have the luxury of switching in the first place. And so we know that there's less acres that you would quote unquote call swing acres. And so that's the conversation you're typically going to have. Yes, there could be some acres that will switch back over from corn to beans. And I think, given the challenges that we're facing financially, it would make some sense for some producers, especially if they had a little bit of help making the decision, which I think you're going to see quite a bit this year, just availability of cash. It's been 4 or 5 tough years in a row. Another question that we've heard from a lot of producers is, do I want to try to make a sale right now in fear that the market's going to move lower? And so, the way to answer that for me is just simply, I don't want to make an unprofitable sale or a sale that's going to force me into the corner of I have to have 240 or 250 bushel corn just to make this thing work. I don't want to do that before I ever put a kernel in the ground. So it's very early in the marketing year. I know there's a lot of panic, that's gone on amongst producers. This has been a really tough month on all of us on a lot of different levels, not just from the farm sector, but just, everyone being holed up at home and not being able to do their normal routine. So it's certainly been a challenge, but what I've been trying to tell people, it's very early. It's super early. This may be the type of year we have to store a bunch, and then make lemonade out of lemons after we harvest next fall. But every year is different, and I don't want to get too beat up over it this early in the year.
That's fair. Good points. So if you're going to give advice to a grower that's maybe not even one of your current customers in your business, what would the 2 things say, just give us two things that you would say, hey, you should do this.
Yeah, and people have heard me talk before might roll their eyes when they hear me say this, but it's absolutely important that I know exactly what I've got in this crop this year. If there was ever a year to split hairs, it's going to be this year. I've got to know, what I've got invested in the crop, and then, at different yield levels, where can I make a sale and make this thing work? And so, do I want to make a sale right now? Probably not, but there's a big difference between someone like, for instance, myself and someone like my father, who has a different debt structure than what I do. So, he may decide he wants to make a sale, an incremental sale, because he can still probably make money at these price levels. But, for me or for the average producer, I would say, let's know at what level we're going to start making a sale. And then let's go ahead and put some offers in place, because the market is likely to move very fast to the upside simply due to the fact that we've moved so fast down to the downside. Now, I'm not saying have a huge rally, but most every year we have a rally. It's just we don't know where that rally is going to be from, and we have to be ready to pounce. Whenever we have that rally show up, and even better strategy, once again, is to have your offers in place. And so, essentially, I want to know my cost of production, then I want to make sure those offers are in place to be able to take advantage once we get the rally that I guess we're all hoping to see.
What's the worst thing to do?
I think
you've always told me this.
The worst thing to do for a producer is to make, bigger decisions without doing your homework and knowing exactly what you want to do. For instance, a lot of folks, whenever I've sat down with them and crunched the numbers, what do you need to make that decision to make a switch from corn to beans, for instance? And whenever we look at at what kind of yields we've seen over the last few years, it's still kind of hard for a lot of producers to make that decision. I know, like right here in Central Illinois, in your territory and in my territory, we've had some phenomenal bean yields in the last few years.
Absolutely.
About it. And when we had $9.50 and $10 beans, a lot of guys made more money on beans than what they made on corn. Let's just be honest about it. But we've also had some 250 to 270 bushel corn, here.
Absolutely.
And you start throwing those numbers in, and I'm not saying we should use that as an average, but we have to understand what our genetics are capable of right now. So if I'm going to be making any decisions on what my ratio is going to be, from corn to beans and whatnot, I definitely have to do the homework. I got to know exactly what I've got in this crop and know what different yield levels are going to do for me from a profitability standpoint.
So today I got in a couple of phone calls that guys are actually rolling in Central Illinois, over around the Springfield, Illinois area today. So if you get an opportunity to get in a decent timing, does that switch into your acres from one side to the other right now, or it depends on kind of what you said on by farm case?
Right. Whenever you get in the field the first day and the ground's working better than what you thought it was going to work, it's so hard to stop. And typically we've all planted corn before we planted beans. So the conversation's maybe a little different than what it used to be, because a lot of folks want to plant beans first nowadays.
Absolutely.
Bottom line, I think most producers, if the weather is good during the springtime, the tendency has always been that more corn acres would get planted. And so, are we going to see that this year? I mean, this is a unique year. This is certainly a unique year. I hate to use the word different because you've always got challenges, but it's a unique year with some of the financial challenges we've got. Some of the challenges, are we going to have issues during the springtime? Like if some co-op gets sick, or if a guy that drives an anhydrous rig gets sick. I mean, who knows what kind of roadblocks we're going to run into? But I think with all things running smoothly, I would assume that, especially in your corn states, the breadbasket of the corn belt, if you will, I think that you're going to see most of the acres that were planned to go to corn are going to go to corn, and maybe you'll see a few more. But I don't expect a whole lot of switching given the economics. I just don't. I mean, to corn. I could see maybe a little more, from corn to beans than beans to corn, but I certainly think most of those corn acres will get planted.
That's fair. That's fair. After 2019, I didn't think it would be more challenging, but it looks like 20 is going to be that side of the world even more so, and especially on the financial side, looks like. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say, you look at 2020, the first quarter of 2020. I mean, can we take a mulligan on 2020?
No doubt.
It's not been fun to start with. But again, I mean, we've basically taken what I would call two black swan events on top of each other. The OPEC price war, those have always been looked at as a black swan event. And then if you're going to call that a black swan event, then what we've been dealing with here, in the U.S. the last 3 or 4 weeks would be a black swan event on steroids. So, obviously we've got a couple of different things going on, which are affecting the demand not only for energy. People aren't driving. Gasoline, ethanol margins are really tough, and so
Yeah.
a lot of things that affect producers that are going on right now that are out of the producer's control. And so, we can worry about them, but it's not going to do us a whole lot of good to worry about them. We've got to figure out what we're going to do to combat it as we go through the year. And again, keep in the back of our head that it's very early in the year and that there will be opportunities, as there generally is.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, Matthew, so wrapping up here today is that how can a person get a hold of you or send a question to you? I think we're going to do this a few times in the next few weeks. And so what's the best way of getting a hold of you and asking questions so we can maybe address some of those next week?
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything specific a person wants to address, Matt Bennett at hlkagency.com. And then the other way is just on Twitter. I think a lot of people in here probably follow me there, but it's at Chief321. They want to shoot me a direct message or even just send me a message on there. I'd certainly be glad to answer any of the questions people might have.
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Matthew. And we appreciate your time today, and keep talking to those producers for us and giving them some direction. We really do appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.